used to quit every year and come down that drive. Something like that.
I'm Jack Ross, and I started on the drive in 1947 and went every year till 69. I was with Bud. We worked for the same company, Martin. I drove truck, and spring of the year, the only time I had any vacation, I went on the drive on my vacation, so I worked 52 weeks a year. And
you went on the drive during your vacation?
Vacation, yeah.
Was that because you enjoyed it
yeah,
so
just
much?
That was right.
It was different.
We really liked it.
That was the thing, I think.
Especially breaking up jams in the middle of the river. Pop would come down on the rock or something. One stick would stick to the rock, and then each one that comes down behind it would keep piling up until you had a long chain of pulp behind it. And then you'd go out and start where the rock is and pull it back and forth each way to get it started unraveling. Then you would keep going back on the pulp till you get to the other end, and then either get in a boat or jump ashore, like pole vault ashore. If you hit a rock and it would kept piling up right down, just like it was piled in the woods. It'd be 4 feet deep and 100 feet long. No, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. You had to walk 2 or 3 miles someplace to get to it. Someplace.
That was rough with the boots full of water, too.
My name is Forrest Parsons, and I worked on the drive on the bateau from 1953 starting until 1971. On this end of the drive, taking the rear and getting it down to the big boom, where they filled out the big booms. Well, yeah, I pulled oar and picked centers, and you had a bowman and a stern man. It's just like this one here, only it's a 29-footer, and this is a 21. And they made them 36 feet years ago. Yeah, they had them made up in Canada. The Indians up there make them. It took a week to push it in with the bulldozer, and then about a week to get the drive into the lake here. But we had the North Branch to do too, so we worked both places. That's where we went and picked it up at Alder Stream. That's the farthest up we went, and then we got it down through here to the filling out boom. Usually they'd get enough water. That's when they had to start, when they could get enough water over on the Rangeley. And that was usually the last week of April sometime. And they had to do it then, because if they didn't have any water, they couldn't. They got to have the water to get the wood through.
Yeah, I watched Parsons go down the rapids in the bateau. I didn't want to be with him. He used to bring me ashore sometime when I was stuck out in the middle.
Well, I was 25 or 6, something like that. I was new that year. I'd been in the bateau, but I hadn't handled before, and he knew it, so he didn't quite trust us. From the other drive would be done the 1st of May, and then I'd be on the lake until I got done the 4th of July. I just liked working on the water. That's all. I was always in the bateau, pulling oar, picking centers.
Do you ever do that anymore?
I wouldn't get our feet wet anymore.
I would if they still drove wood. I'd go every year. It's only 2 weeks. Well, I used to go clear to the park too. I'd go on the lake and then go down to the park where this end of it started. Well, one of the worst ones, you remember a lot of things, but it was when the bateau got upset down on the big river and the guy got drowned, and I saw that happen. Then they got crossways behind some rocks, and the bateau filled full of water, and they all had to leave it. One guy didn't make it.
That's down in the main branch of the Denver?
Yeah, down below Spencer Rips. And they didn't find the guy for a month down in the lake. And he had a young wife and had some new children, 1 new children.
I'm Bud Field. I worked for D.C. Martin in the woods, drove truck, bulldozer, crane, and then run a horse log job for a while. And then every spring I'd come down and push in wood into the river up there with the bulldozer, Lower Dallas, and then come down the drive with the end of it.
Ending up where?
The Black Bridge out here.
Right.
And then I'd go back to work for D.C. Martin. We were always glad to see Flagstaff Lake and get our feet out of the dead river. I say, seeing someone out on one of those blocks and then trying to get them to fall in the water was the fun of it. First of it, they used to cook for us. They always had one guy that hauled the lunches every day, and that's all he did. And he wanted to make sure he was there too.
Yeah, he had to pack and the helper. They'd go down ahead where we might, about noontime, and build a fire and carry all the lunch.
I'm John Caldwell, and I was on the drive from 57 to 70. And every spring we wouldn't be cutting wood, so that'd be a job for us. And I went on the Timbrook Drive for Harry LaPointe, and the Alder Stream for Harry LaPointe, and also on the Spencer. Harry's put in wood up there, and we was there 21 days with 21 men, and we had to go 21 miles to get to the North Branch, and we did it in 21 days.
Very rugged terrain up there.
Very rugged. There was what they call a strip in, they called it the gut and the paunch. We never went through that at all. Just the wood went in and it come out the other end, and we just picked it up and brought the drives from there down into the North Branch. All just walking along, and the only vehicle they had was a Jeep. It was hauling the supplies for the food for the men lunching. Now this was up to Alder Stream, and it happened to be going by the boss's camp, and where I was picking centers, my pick pole I'd pull, and Fred Townsend was up above me, and he was pulling wood too, and this huge stick came down, and I said, I have plenty of time, I'll get the last stick and pull it out, but it stuck, and a big stick came down, hit my pick pole, and I went in. I wouldn't let go of that pole. Normally, anyone would let the pole go, but I didn't want to have that extra expense for Harry, so I went in and floated down to the next eddy, stood up, come ashore. But luckily I was right there by the Harry's camp, so I went up and took all my clothes off, wrung them out, put them back on, and went back down, went back to work.
Because this is right after the ice has gone out.
Right.
So not very warm.
It was bringing pushing the landings in at Alder Stream Farm.
My name is Lee Henderson, and I wasn't on the river drive very much. Just one year I went down part way from the Long Falls Dam down to the Dead River Dam, my brother and I. But I was on the middle toe with him for a number of years. My brother Robert was the captain on the middle toe, and I ran the tender boat, tending out for what he wanted done. And it was a pretty interesting job. We used to make the booms up right at the booming out place and just tow them down until we met the big toe. And they'd take the booms and haul them down all the way down to the dam, and they'd give it to the little toe, and the little toe would break the boom logs open, and they'd bring the boom logs back up the lake and till they met us, and we'd take them back up and make another boom and bring them down. And it was a very interesting job. See, they had a big toe, a middle toe, and a little toe, diesel motors, yeah. So we was just on the middle toe, my brother and I, and we just towed the booms down the lake until we met the big toe, and we'd turn it over to them and just go back. Well, I remember one incident that my brother we hit a headwind, and he didn't want the boom to go back around the point, and we was getting late in the day, and he said, we're gonna have to tie this up. So he said, I want you to go out and tie that boom off, put a bowline in it and tie that off. So I said, okay. So I took the tender boat, went out, took the rope, and tied it off. Thought I put a bowline in it. Well, it wasn't a bowline. Anyways, the rope untied and the boom went right back into the cove. And I went back on the boat, and my brother was watching me. He said, he watched the boom just go back in the cove, and he said, well, Lee, he says, I think that must have been one of them Flagstaff bowlines. And needless to say, the next morning we had to pull it all the way back out and down the lake. So that's one of my memories.
My name is Ted Targett, and I've been on the River Drive since whenever it started back in the early 50s, late 60s. Was on the South Branch River Drive. I've been on the River Drive up in the Kibbe Stream, Sawyer Brook, on the Dead River, picked pulp on the lake, worked for Ken Packard, worked for Harrier Point, pushed pulp with a tractor at the landing at Dallas. In the Bad O on the South Branch River with my brother and Forrest Parsons. Well, they used to have what they call a flag dam, and they used to let the water go, and then the Bad O's would go down the river after the head was on. My father was always a boatman, and my older brother was a boatman, so we kind of followed in tradition. Always was in a boat. So no, everything went pretty smooth. Seems like we knew what we were doing. So they're very important, very good fellows. Most everybody knew what they were doing, and everybody took care of each other. And most of them were from the area. Of course, on the big river, on the Dead River, they were coming from Bangor area. And some of the boatmen came from Bangor, mostly Indians. And they were fun to work with.
Do you miss those old days?
Oh, definitely, definitely. We didn't notice it being hard work because we worked hard anyway. So.
You all must have been in great shape.
Absolutely.
Very good friends with each other.
Yes, I wished it was back again sometimes. I wished I was back then, too. I'm getting pretty old now, so.